Welcome, my fiend, to part 4 of our in-progress series. That is a playthrough of Dracula, Curse of the Vampire, an 8th game book by Jonathan Green. There's my face. Sorry, I was hidden for a moment. What is there to say? Yeah, this is part 4. This is kind of an amazing to me game book. It is so huge in scope. It's really well written. It's based on the original story, but expands on it quite a bit. It lets you play as one of how many different characters? I guess 4 different characters, 3 different human beings who are trying to end the vampire menace. Or you can play as Count Dracula himself. Jonathan Green has been making some amazing game books in recent years. And I definitely recommend checking out his work if you have any interest in this stuff, or you could just watch me play them. So, yeah, Rob Bob. He's got midterms next week. He also takes a private Japanese class for which he has a final tomorrow. Decided I'd leave him be. But I'm thinking I'm going to try to rope him into the streams more often. I'm going to let it be Rob Bob's choice of what to play sometime soon on our Saturday night gaming streams. All right. What else is there to say before we go? Hello to everyone who is there. Looks like we got 2 likes, but 1 viewer. Go figure. Someone liked and ran. Hello, Eric Johnson. Good to see you as always. Hope everyone had a good Saturday. Your weekend is going well, and it's not, hopefully not full of vampires and all the crazy stuff that's happening in this book. You always gotta appreciate, relative to how much worse life could get. At least this guy is not enslaving you in his castle, which kind of brings us to I guess I should recap. And what happened was we were playing as Jonathan Harker for the first 2.5-ish streams. We're on number 4 again, once again. But basically, I think he was imprisoned in Castle Dracula, and had some lovely chats with the fellow, ate a lot of lovely meals, and rested up. And he realized he was in deep, grave danger, so he escaped. He climbed down the wall, just like Dracula's doing here. It actually just required an agility roll, and he made it. I actually wound up going back in the castle by accident for some reason. I escaped, and then I had a choice of to do this or that. And I chose that, and apparently implied in that choice was going back to my room, and I didn't realize that at the time. But nonetheless, I was able to escape shortly after. It was kind of suspenseful because Dracula insisted that I write certain letters out back home in London, and he forced me to put some future dates on them, and the last one was presumably when I was going to be dead. It said I was in some other castle. I kind of forget the details, but essentially it was to cover the tracks that I was even at Castle Dracula, just to kind of confuse anyone looking for me, to throw off anyone looking for me. So that was kind of a clear sign that I was in grave danger. And anyway, when I did escape, I had the option to shift perspective. I had an option once before to change perspective, to switch to controlling Mina Harker. And is she Mina Harker yet? Sorry, I'm just, no, she's Mina Murray. I think she marries Jonathan Harker later, but she's Mina Murray for now. But I did decline that choice. I was asking for suggestions from the chat, and I believe someone said don't switch, so I didn't switch at the time. But then last stream, yeah, after I escaped the castle, I had the option to shift gears to Mr. John Seward, so I decided to do it that time. And John Seward, he's kind of investigating with the help of his Dutch friend, Abraham Van Helsing, a strange malady that has afflicted a certain Lucy Westenra. And obviously we all know what that is. There's no real spoiler here for I want to assume that if you're basically familiar with anything related to this extremely famous story, whether you read the original novel or saw you know, the early 90s Bram Stoker's Dracula, or the Bela Lugosi Dracula, or even the recent Nosferatu. All the Nosferatu movies are basically inspired by Dracula, although they're not one-to-one. You know, you probably have some idea of the story. So obviously the affliction that Lucy is suffering from is vampirism. So Van Helsing and Dr. Seward are trying to get to the bottom of that. I think Dr. Seward had like some long nights or like a few days of not sleeping, trying to stay up with her and, you know, all that good stuff. And Van Helsing was like traveling back and forth from the Netherlands, I think it was Netherlands, to England. You know, he's all over the place, running around, getting his books and things, trying to solve the mystery. He's kind of already figured out what's going on, I think. I'm not sure if my guy, Dr. Seward, is convinced yet. Also, Renfield was involved. Didn't he, did he attack me, Renfield? I'm trying to remember. Well, in any event, maybe we ought to just jump into it. So yeah, we were at Dr. Seward, and we had just... Well, we had written paragraph 722. That's where we saved. That's our save point. Sorry, random thought crossed my mind. I might as well say what it is. The original Nosferatu movie was almost... That's from the 1920s by, I believe the director's name was F.W. Murnau, unless I'm confusing with a different German dude. I think that's correct. And because Nosferatu borrowed so much from Bram Stoker's Dracula, I might not have all the details right, but I think basically the Stoker estate sued. I'm trying to think, was actually Bram Stoker himself still alive back then? I think probably not, although it might have been cutting it close. But the Stoker estate sued, and the court, or whoever it was, the state ordered that all copies of Nosferatu, the film, be destroyed. But I guess, you know, some of them managed to survive that purging of it. And it's kind of interesting, though. You think if that didn't happen, you wouldn't have had that now classic silent horror movie Nosferatu, and you wouldn't have this recent remake, or the 70s remake for that matter. It's possible something would have spawned out of it anyway. I don't know, maybe a different Dracula-based movie. But I don't know, just kind of interesting when you hear stories like that, like just somehow a film survived despite it's supposed to having been destroyed, you know? By the way, my friend Johnny is watching me from the wall here. Just in case anyone was wondering about that. He's not a vampire, though. He's just a zombie. Alright, why don't we get into it? Page 722. So I can't remember the exact last thing that happened, but I think this 722 was one of those journal entries. And we did not read it yet. I'm sure it'll come back to us, to me, to you, to everyone. And bear with me as I get my stand organized here. Alright, and the camera. Alright, so let's see, how should we do this? First of all, I'm gonna hide this overhead camera. This overhead camera is cool, by the way, when we're rolling dice and showing the character sheet and stuff. But I don't want it to be a distraction while we're reading the main story. So I will try to remember how to hide that. No, that's not how you do it. Why am I forgetting? Sorry, bear with me a moment. There we go. All right. The 722. Yeah, this looks like a journal entry in this sort of typewriter font. Therefore, we are allowed to restore up to 4 endurance. And I was a little concerned before the stream. I was like, oh, did we do it or not? But I kind of deduced by the fact that the last change was a decrement of 2. In other words, I subtracted 2. That I'm pretty sure I didn't already heal myself. So anyway, I'm back at 20 endurance. And yeah, I think I did lose some from being stabbed by Renfield. I think that happened. All right, let's read this. How did I accidentally... Oh, okay. Telegram, Van Helsing, Antwerp. To Seward, Carfax. Make sure it's Carfax, not Carfox. September 17th. Do not fail to be at Hillingham tonight. If not watching all the time, frequently visit and see that flowers are as placed. Very important. Do not fail. Shall be with you as soon as possible after arrival. You cannot believe it. Van Helsing's telegram arrives early on the morning of 18th of September, but a whole day late. Isn't that just, how these things go? Too bad they didn't have text messaging, right? Alright, let's see. Get my pointer over here. My pointer stick, also known as a pencil. The professor's dire warning fills you with dismay, for you know by bitter experience what may occur in the course of an entire night. A night that has been lost because of the late arrival of his telegram. Of course, it is possible that all may still be well, but you find yourself fixating on what you fear might have happened. You feel that there is some dreadful doom hanging over your endeavors, that every possible accident seems to thwart your efforts to keep Lucy alive at every turn. Maybe, it could be Dracula was manipulating the telegram system somehow, Seems like the kind of thing he'd do. You set off immediately, boarding the first train to London, and even you, a man of science, praying that nothing has befallen Lucy during the night. You drive at once to Hillingham, and keeping your cab at the gate, head up to the avenue alone. Ascending the steps to the front door, you knock gently and ring as quietly as possible, hoping to only bring a housemaid to the door. Hopefully not a vampire. When there is no response, you knock and ring again, but there's still no answer. Oh man, this doesn't sound good to me, and it's all because of a telegram system that sucks. Cursing the laziness of the servants, you ring and knock a third time more impatiently, but without receiving a response. A creeping dread steals into your heart. Is this desolation another link in the chain of doom that seems to be drawing tight around you? Is it a house of death to which you have come too late? Knowing that minutes, even seconds of delay, might lead to hours of danger for Lucy, you circle the house, searching for another way in. But you can find no other means of ingress. Every window and door on the ground floor is fastened and locked. Baffled, you return to the front porch. Turn to 42. I hope everyone had a good day today. I want to do the thing that I do with my kids sometimes. State one good thing that happened to you today, or one interesting thing. You don't have to. Sometimes I like to chat with people as well, besides just the game that we're doing. All right, that's kind of a fun little icebreaker sometimes. As for me, I worked on repairing my snowblower, which is a good and a bad thing. Good because I learned some things about it. I'm not something I do all the time, and bad because I failed. But I only failed because I was replacing the carburetor, and the part I had ordered was advertised on Amazon, like an OEM thing, as being compatible with my snowblower, but there was a connection that didn't fit. And, I got, smelly with gasoline and all that fun stuff, and frustrated and whatnot, but it was a worthwhile experience. That's basically how I spent most of my day. Anyway, back to the world of Dracula, however, where things are much more interesting, and there are no snowblowers involved. Hearing the rapid pit-pat of a swiftly driven horse's feet, you become aware of a carriage pulling up at the gate, and a few seconds later see Van Helsing running up the avenue. Have you only just arrived? Are we too late? Did you not get my telegram? Or was I supposed to do a bad Dutch accent? I actually meant to, offline, try to research what a Dutch accent would actually sound like and practice it a little bit, just so I'm not just doing a cartoon version of a bad German accent. But well, maybe we should just go with that, right? That's all I know how to do. Have you only just... Now I'm losing it. How do I do? Have you only just arrived? Are we too late? Did you not get my telegram? You answer as quickly and as coherently as you can, explaining that you have been unable to make anyone in the house hear you. Raising his hat solemnly, the professor says, "Then I fear we are too late." I'm not, I'm just gonna roll without doing the accent. It's not coming naturally tonight. As horrible as it was to begin with. "Then I fear we are too late. Come, if there be no way open to get in, then we must make one." At the back of the house, you find a kitchen window. The professor produces a surgical saw from his bag, and handing it to you, directs you to attack the iron bars that guard it. Having cut through 3 of them, Van Helsing uses a long, thin knife to push back the fastening of the sashes. In this way, you open the window and make your way inside, followed by the professor. All right, let's check what Eric has to say. He says I successfully relaxed. Hey, man, I kind of wish I had done that. I mean, I like to say that, it was a good experience. I kind of moved forward in the project in a sense, and I learned stuff along the way. But it sucked. I was like kind of sitting on my garage floor, and it was cold. And I realized I need some of those kind of pads that like I guess contractors and plumbers tend to get, where when they're working on the ground. So they're not killing their bodies. Right now, I feel like kind of crap from that. But I mean, not too bad. Just a little sore and stuff. All right. Anyway, relaxation sounds fun. All right. So our choices here back to the game again. Do you want to search the ground floor of the house first? Turn to 2, or do you want to head straight upstairs to Lucy's room? Turn to 72. Now, as always, feel free in the chat to chime in with your suggestion. Ultimately, it's my choice, but I'll take all of your suggestions into consideration. Sometimes, if I can't make a decision, I like to defer to the chat, because then I can blame you guys if it's a bad decision. Usually when Ryan's in the chat, he has a lot of suggestions. Is Ryan in the chat today? It looks like he's probably not. All right, so let's see. I kind of think I should just give the ground floor a quick search. I mean, I think either Lucy's effed now or not, but it's possible that for the sake of drama, like she's just getting a, I don't know about attacks is the right word. She's already been bitten, but already being visited by a vampire. I guess they're draining her repeatedly, aren't they? Because we were giving her transfusions, and every time we failed to be able to keep watch of her, like she would be drained again, apparently. Maybe we should just rush. I'm gonna rush upstairs. If we're realistic, I'd say look around first, but I feel like there's gonna be a thing of like, a vampire is there right at that moment as we go up. So let's go to 72. Maybe Dracula himself even. Well, no, he didn't. I'm remembering now that he was still in Transylvania, Count Dracula, and he was doing the whole thing. He hired those like gypsy people to fill up crates with his dirt so they could move to England and have his, home soil to rest in. But I don't think that, well, I don't know if it happened yet, because I kind of forgot the time frames. I think when we were playing with Jonathan Harker, the dates were June, and we're talking September now that we've cut over to Dr. Seward. So I think it is long after Jonathan Harker's, stay in the castle and stuff, like a couple of months later. And so presumably Dracula has made it across the English Channel and everything by now. So yeah, Dracula is probably here. And I guess that might be obvious, because I think that's supposed to be the one, Dracula himself bit Lucy, not some random vampire, I think. So I guess that I'm stating the obvious, kind of. All right, let's keep going. You race up the stairs to Lucy's room, and with white faces and trembling hands open the door and enter. On the bed lie 2 women, Lucy and her mother. Mr. Westenra's face is drawn in white, with a look of terror fixed upon it. She is quite clearly dead, her heart having given out at last, no doubt. Oh, man. Lucy is lying at her mother's side. The garlic flowers that had been about her neck lie discarded on her mother's bosom, and her throat is bare. You can see the 2 mysterious wounds quite clearly, for they are horribly white and mangled. Without a word, the professor bends over the bed, his head almost touching Lucy's breast. He's trying to... I'm not going to make a joke there. And you fear the worst. The thought of Lucy losing her battle for life scares you more than anything else. Add 1 point to your terror score. So I'm at 4 terror as Dr. Seward. The other character, Harker, he was getting all messed up. He was at, if you look at our character sheet for Jonathan Harker, he was at 15 terror. He had seen so much stuff. Dr. Seward is just getting warmed up here. Right, Dr. Seward's getting warmed up. Horrible thing. Add 1 point to terror. We're at 4. Van Helsing gives a quick turn of his head. I wonder what Dr. Van Helsing's terror is. I feel like he kind of almost has more of a handle on the situation emotionally. Well, I mean, he's not exactly calm here either. Look at this. He's begging. He's saying, "Quick, bring the brandy. Everybody get drunk now. Everybody drink now." All right. Van Helsing gives a quick turn of his head as if listening. and suddenly leaps to his feet. He cries out, it is not too late. Quick, quick, bring the brandy. Wait, so he's hearing a heartbeat? Is that the idea? And he's going to get her drunk. No, maybe he's trying to clean an infection. That's the way he sees it. You fly back downstairs and return less than a minute later. Van Helsing rubs the brandy on Lucy's lips and gums, and then on her wrists and the palm of her hands. What we need is like garlic infused alcohol. That would be apparently a good thing here. Let's see. And then on her wrist and the palm of her hands. I can do no more for the time being, he says. She is nearly as cold as her mother. You'll need to warm her up before we can do anything more. At the professor's instruction, you draw a hot bath and place Lucy in it as she is. She got her clothes on and everything, I guess. As the heat begins to have some effect, you hear her heartbeat more audibly through your stethoscope, and her lungs show perceptible movement. She must have another transfusion of blood, Van Helsing snaps. Here we go again. The transfusion. And soon, but you and I are both exhausted. Who is left to open his veins for her now? Will my blood do? Comes a voice from the threshold of the bathroom. Quincy Morris, you cry in joy and relief upon seeing Arthur's American friend. I should do an exaggerated American drawl, even though I speak like an American naturally. He'll be like, will my blood do? Comes a voice from the threshold of the bathroom. Quincy Morris, you cry in joy and relief upon seeing Arthur's American friend, who was once a suitor for Miss Lucy's affections, like yourself. What brings you here? I guess art is the cause, he replies, handing you a telegram. So art meaning Van Helsing, I guess. Wait, no, his name's Abraham Van Helsing, not Arthur, right? Who's Art? Anyway, I had a thought, but I lost it, so yay, forget that. Here's the telegram that he produces. Have not heard from Seward for 3 days, and am terribly anxious. Cannot leave. Father still in same condition. Send me word how Lucy is. Do not relay. Holmwood. I think I came just in the nick of time. Just tell me what to do. Should I be doing my drawl here? That's him speaking, right? I think I came in just the nick of time. Just tell me what to do. I sound like Forrest Gump. Van Helsing strides forward and, taking his hand, looks him straight in the eyes. A brave man's blood is the best thing on this earth. When a woman is in trouble, the devil may work against us for all he's worth, but God sends us men when we need them. Now, I remember what my thought was. I'm wondering, when was the concept of blood types discovered? Because it seems to be conveniently ignored here. All these transfusions, we all just happen to be donors. And just out of curiosity, I'm going to look it up real quick. But they must have known that transfusion would sometimes be very, I guess, kill a person? I'm not sure what happens if you transfuse with the wrong blood. Does it... I think it has harm. I don't know. I don't think it's good. I'm going to, just out of my own curiosity, it was discovered in 1901. Yeah, okay, yeah. So this, story takes place in 18-something. I can't remember exactly what. Late 1800s, I believe. It was probably like 10 or 20 years before the concept of blood types was discovered. I wonder, was it just kind of thought that sometimes randomly a blood transfusion goes horribly wrong and sometimes it doesn't? Or maybe there was like a prevailing theory that was wrong. Anyway. So yeah, we're going to transfuse. We're all universal donors to Lucy. Maybe Lucy's a universal, what do they call it? Universal recipient? All right, 112, Dr. Seward's diary. All right. Oh, this is another typeface paragraph. So I get to recover another 4 endurance, which actually takes me back up to 22. I was at 20, so I can't go up beyond the max endurance of 22, so I'm back at 22. Dr. Seward's diary, kept in phonograph. That's interesting. They're actually recording these things, I guess, on phonograph, which is, you know, vinyl record basically. Because they might not have used literally vinyl, they might have used like wax or something back then. Once again, we went through the ghastly operation, and though plenty of blood went into her veins, Lucy did not respond to the treatment as well as on other occasions. Her struggle back into life was something frightful to see. While Van Helsing tends to Lucy, you go downstairs with Quincy. When the two of you are alone, and as he has a lie down after a restorative glass of wine — I had one of those tonight, by the way, a restorative glass of wine — he says to you, "Jack Seward, I don't want to shove myself in anywhere I've got no right to be, but this is no ordinary case. You know I loved that girl and wanted to marry her. And so I can't help feeling anxious about her. What's wrong with her?" Lucy has lost a lot of blood, you tell him as calmly as you can, for the poor fellow is clearly terribly anxious. And how long has this been going on? About 10 days. Seems like our biggest problem is we can't have someone, we're having trouble having someone watch her and making sure the garlic seal and everything is set up all the time and stuff like that. We need a guard. 10 days, Quincy exclaims. Then I guess, Jack Seward, that poor pretty creature that we all love has had put into her veins within that time the blood of 4 strong men. Man alive, her whole body wouldn't hold it. Drawing close to you in a fierce whisper, he says, "What took it out?" "That," you say, shaking your head, "is the crux. I can't even hazard a guess. There's been a series of little circumstances which have thrown out all our calculations as to Lucy being properly watched. But these shall not occur again." Yeah, right. "Here we stay until all be well or ill." All right, fine. Quincy holds out his hand. "Count me in. You and the Dutchman will tell me what to do, and I'll do it." All right. We got another person helping. That's good. By the way, I have very low generic YouTube music going in the background. I don't know if it's even audible, but you know, YouTube provides license-free music that you're allowed to stream. It won't get you copyright claims, and so I just set the filters to genre, ambient, and mood dark. And that's what I just blasted right now. See? Yeah, okay. I just turned it up in my headphones too. Figure why not? When there's a lull in my speaking, you get to hear something creepy for a moment. But I think I had it a little too low. It was probably barely audible. So I'll turn it up a little bit. All right, back to the game though. Count me in, blah, 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 tell me what to do, sure. When Lucy wakes later that afternoon, her eyes light upon Van Helsing and then on you, and she is gladdened. But then as she looks around the room and realizes where she is, she shudders and gives a cry of grief, throwing her poor thin hands in front of her pallid face, and between great racking sobs, cries out for her mother, while you do your best to comfort her. Oh yeah. What do we even do about her mother? She's dead. I guess someone took her away, but we're kind of like not even talking about her or anything. Is she a vampire now? I guess that they would have mentioned if there was a bite on her. Our assessment was that she her heart gave, like being like grieving so much, something like that. So she's perhaps not a vampire, but just dead, just ordinarily dead. That night, she sleeps fitfully. You and the professor take turns to watch over her, never leaving her unattended for even a moment, while Quincy Morris patrols the house and its grounds in case Lucy's attacker should return. When daylight comes again at last, Lucy barely even reacts to it and spends much of the day dozing. You watch her as she sleeps. And her mouth open, you notice that her gums are pale and drawn back from the teeth. This again, which you are sure look longer and sharper than is natural. Oh yeah, that's a new development actually, that she's getting fangs. When she awakes in the afternoon, she asks for Arthur, and you telegraph for him to come at once, while Quincy goes off to meet him at the station. When her betrothed arrives, When her betrothed arrives, it is almost 6 o'clock. Excuse me. Now I'm remembering. Arthur is her betrothed, so they were going to get married. Quincy loved her. Dr. Seward loved her. You know, everybody liked her because she was hot, I guess. But yeah, Arthur was the one who was actually going to marry her. When her betrothed arrives, it is almost 6 o'clock and the sun is setting. And when he realizes how desperate the situation is, he is choked with emotion. Oh, now the music got loud. Okay, sorry about that. See, that's a problem. Sometimes it just has a big burst in volume, so I have to kind of keep it kind of low. All right. When her betrothed arrives, it's almost 6 o'clock and the sun is setting. And when he realizes how desperate the situation is, he is choked with emotion, and none of you find yourselves able to say anything. Arthur's presence causes Lucy to rally a little, and she speaks to him more brightly than she has to anyone else since you arrived after she was attacked. However, you fear that tomorrow will see an end to your watching. I heard something recently that I guess is probably common knowledge, but it wasn't to me. It's that when people are about to die, they often have a big, like if they're in a hospital, you know, and they're dying, they often have like a really big rally, like right before they go. And sometimes their loved ones get a little too hopeful. Like, yeah, he's doing great now. So, and that's the end of that. We got another typeface paragraph. Dr. Seward's diary, kept in phonograph. 20th of September. Only resolution and habit can let me make an entry tonight. I am too miserable, too low-spirited, too sick of the world and all in it. At 1 o'clock in the morning, you take over from Van Helsing and continue to sit with Lucy while the professor and Arthur get some much-needed rest. I think having 3 people doing like a 24-hour shift is immensely easier than 2. Or we have 4 now because we got Arthur too. Yeah, we got Arthur and 4 people. That'd be way easier. At 6 o'clock, Van Helsing comes to relieve you of your solemn duty. When he sees Lucy's face, he says to you in a sharp whisper, "Draw up the blind, I want light." When he bends down and with his face almost touching Lucy's, he examines her carefully. Upon removing the garland of garlic flowers, he gives a cry. "Mein Gott! The wounds on her throat have vanished." He turns to you, his face set and stern. "She is dying. It will not be long now. Wake her beloved, and let him come and see the last. We have promised him." When you return only a matter of minutes later with Arthur, Lucy, Lucy opens her eyes and seeing him, whispers softly, "Arthur, oh my love, I am so glad you have come. Kiss me." Take an ESP test. This is when my supernatural sense, or my sixth sense kicks in, whatever you want to call it. But I always fail these rolls, I feel like, or I tend to fail them. So let's take a quick look at our overhead cam. Look at our character. And make that nice and big. Yeah, so we got to look at our ESP score, which is 7. So we need a 7 or less on 2 dice. Today we are rocking a nice purple dice tray. And let's pick out some dice. I'll go with my kind of ivory-ish looking ones here. The technical name for this color is... What does it say over here? I always forget where they actually say that. Alright, whatever. Alright, 7 or less is needed. And once again, we failed the ESP roll. We are just not good at those ESP rolls. So what I'm assuming is going to happen, I'm going to take a guess ahead of time, is, she probably is full vampire now, and she just invited Arthur to come kiss her, and it's not going to go well, but I will not have detected it. I did not have the foresight to go, wait a minute, don't go near her. Because I can, You get the idea. Anyway. 184. No, I failed the test. 214. $214. You draw closer as Arthur eagerly bends over to do her bidding. Ah! And it is then that you see the pale gums again. Ah! And the pointed teeth as she opens her mouth. Your heart's racing. You know you have to act fast. Okay, we have a second roll we could make here. Agility will save us, right? Take an agility test. So once again, let's get our camera up here. We got an agility score of 9, so this roll should be easier than the ESP. And we need a 9 or less because of the 9 agility. Simple enough, right? Oh! Well, again, we failed by 1, so it kind of gave me 2 rolls to save Mr. Arthur here, but I think we botched it. So go to 267. He's going to get bit. Maybe Van Helsing will do something. Now, what I like about Jonathan Green, he's not the kind of author who seems to be like, you failed a roll, you're dead, or something really unrecoverable happened, like something terrible. I think he gives you 2 rolls, and then he won't make it like a showstopper, typically. That's my perspective. He's not trying to screw you. Like a lot of the old school fighting fantasy books and stuff, there's a lot of just, well, sorry, you screwed up, you're dead. But, yeah, he's more lenient, Jonathan Green, in my perspective. But it's possible this could just be, Arthur's dead now. At least I'm not necessarily dead. Well, I could have to fight Lucy in a moment. Here we go, let's see. Rising from the bed, Lucy suddenly lunges at Arthur, her mouth wide open wide, and her fingers contorted into cruel talons. Not like mine. I mean, I don't really have much in the way of claws going on here. You grab him with both hands and pull him out of harm's way. So still, I think kind of, even though I failed those 2 rolls, you can see that it didn't like totally like destroy our world here. Anyway, pull him out of harm's way, but in the process, expose yourself to Lucy's uncontained savagery. She digs her fingernails deep into the flesh of your forearm, and as she rakes them free, drawing blood from 5 deep gouges. Ah! Lose 2 endurance points. Alright, so I'm back down to 20. Oh, and add 1 to your terror score, and then turn to 297. Alright, so our terror is now 5. And here's a brief look at the character sheet once again. Dr. Seward. Endurance is at 20. Combat was knocked down to 8, unfortunately, earlier. I don't remember why. And terror is at 5. We used 1. The pen is mightier, by the way. We have no equipment. No special notes either. Turn to 297. $297. Lucy hisses like a serpent, baring her pronounced canines. Her face is contorted in a monstrous grimace, her eyes like hard, bloodshot pebbles. A spasm of rage passes like a shadow across her face, and the sharp teeth clamp together. Then her eyes close and she collapses onto the bed in a dead faint. Only a matter of moments later, she opens her eyes and you see that they have regained their former softness. She puts out her pale, thin hand, and Van Helsing takes it in his. Drawing his hand close to her, Lucy kisses it. "My true friend," she says in a faint voice. "My true friend and his. Please look after Arthur and give me peace." "I swear," the professor says solemnly. Then he turns to Arthur. "Come, take her hand in yours and kiss her on the forehead, but once." The lovers' eyes meet one last time, and in a look they say their farewells. Lucy's breathing becomes labored, and then all of a sudden she expels her last breath. "It is over," Van Helsing says. "She is dead." You take Arthur by the arm and lead him away to the drawing room, where he sits down, puts his face in his hands, and breaks down in tears. You return to Lucy's room. and find Van Helsing staring at her, his face sterner than ever. Standing beside him, you say, "She is at peace at last, and that is an end to it." He turns to you and it says with grave solemnity, "Not so, alas. It is only the beginning." Turn to 339. He's got to stake her, right? I think she gets entombed in the original story. I guess I was gonna say I guess I shouldn't spoil every detail, but I don't know. Again, it's Dracula. Everyone knows the story. But I don't know. I don't think he stakes her here in the original, basically. The funeral is arranged for the 22nd of September so that Lucy and her mother might be buried together. Because Arthur has to be back the day after that to attend his father's funeral. Oh, man. Let me shuffle some things around on my desk. Sorry about that. Yeah, right. Because he has to attend his father's funeral, there is not time to notify everyone who might have liked to have been there to see Lucy off. After the undertaker has been, you go to look at what has been done for poor Lucy this one last time. There is a mortuary air about the room, in which Lucy and her mother are lying, festooned with something. Festooned with tall wax candles. You are startled by her beauty. All her loveliness has come back to her in death, so that you can hardly believe you are looking at a corpse. The professor adds wild garlic blooms into the other flowers that have been put in the room, and places a little gold crucifix over Lucy's mouth. And that is how she remains until the day of her internment, with Van Helsing patrolling the house, never out of sight of the room where poor Lucy lies in her coffin. If you wish to continue the story as John Seward, we can pivot here. I'm going to need some votes in the chat for what I should do. If you wish to continue the story as Dr. John Seward, turn to 999. However, you may choose to take on the role of Jonathan Harker, turn to 329. And I wonder if it is written such that it would be exactly where I left off, or what. Or the recently married Mina Harker. Oh yeah, she married Jonathan now. If you prefer, turn to 242. All right, so this is a big choice here. Yeah, again, Eric Johnson or anyone else. Looks like we got 2 other viewers as well. Let me know what you think. Should we shift characters back to Jonathan Harker, who he played as for about 2.5 streams, or we could switch to Mina, who we've never played as before, or we could continue the story as John Seward. I'm gonna think about it for a moment, and then I'll state what I think. They all sound like good choices. I wouldn't mind any of them. But I'm thinking, since we haven't played as Mina, why don't we pivot to her? Unless anyone has any strong feelings in the chat. Looks like we got no opinions right now. That's okay. Yeah, all right, I guess I'm gonna choose to play as Mina Harker now. We just got married to Jonathan. I'm assuming it's after Jonathan saw all that shit, Castle Dracula, and went back home to England. All right, over to Mina. 242. All right, the scene changes. I remember it was Dan the Man, I believe, who I don't think is here. At least he hasn't said anything yet. Dan the Man wasn't sure he liked this whole scene shifting thing. That's fine. It's a fair opinion. All right. Switching over to me, let's take a quick look at her character sheet. I find generally they're the characters aren't like vastly different. We got, we still haven't seen any of these symbols, right? Or did I just kind of like accidentally ignore them? That's kind of what I'm worried about. I might have accidentally ignored them. The way it works is each character has a special symbol. And it's just clicking in my brain why I didn't see these. But let me explain the rule. Each character has a special symbol. For John Seward, for example, it's this skull. So anytime you go to a paragraph where you see the skull, You add 30 to the number, and you read that one instead, because it's like if you're in sort of a generic paragraph that I guess any of the characters, probably besides Dracula, can go to, and there's a specific version of it for this character, it'll have that symbol on it. And so Seward has the skull. Similarly, Jonathan Harker has the cross, and Mina Murray, or Mina Harker as she is now, has the bat symbol, although she's not Batman, I don't think. But what I was going to say before I went on that little tangent is I don't really see vast differences among their stats. They're pretty much all roughly the same, except I guess they all have a... Let's compare them all just for the fun of it. We've got... Looks like Jonathan has a 10 in combat. Seward has a 10 in agility. And Mina is actually quite balanced. She has 8 and 20 in endurance. But nobody's like, especially terrible at anything. I guess the worst thing is Dr. John Seward's ESP. Didn't I? When I was making his ESP roll, was I looking at Jonathan Harker by accident? 'Cause I thought I said I needed a 7 or less. I wonder, maybe I was looking at the wrong character. Anyway, I failed it nonetheless, so it doesn't matter. Alright. But yeah, she's kind of balanced. She has 8 and 8 for agility, combat, and ESP. That actually gives her the highest ESP of all the characters. Her endurance is 20, so she's not exactly a frail little thing just because she's a woman either. Although her endurance and combat are lower than the other guys. I guess the combat could make a big difference. Her combat, their combats are 10, 9, and 8. But endurance 24, 22, 20. I mean, 20 is still good. It's not like she has like 3 or like 8 or something. To be a little bit more realistic. All right. Anyway, Mina Harker's journal. Let's do it. So congratulations on your wedding, Mina Harker. Jonathan is better. This is the 23rd of September, by the way, so a little bit after the last entry we read, which I think what took place on the 20th of September. I wonder if the game is written so that you're always progressing forward in time and not like ever going back. I guess that could be kind of weird if you were going back in time. We're just shifting scenes, but not like time traveling here. All right. So Mina Harker's journal, 23rd of September. Jonathan is better after a bad night. I am so glad that he had plenty of work to do, for that keeps his mind off terrible things. Deeply saddened as you are by the passing of your dear friend Lucy, nonetheless you are able to take some small pleasure in seeing Jonathan shake off the insidious malaise that has seemed to follow him home from the continent. Alright, so he's back in England, clearly, if there was any doubt. You rejoice that your husband is not weighed down by the responsibility of his new position, now that he is the senior partner of the firm Hawkins, Oldman, and Lee. And that Gary Oldman right there, he's Stephen Hawking. No, he's Stephen Hawking. I'm just being stupid. With all that entails, and feel proud to see him rising to the height of his advancement and keeping pace with all the duties that have come upon him. Knowing that he will be away all day till late with your household duties done for the day, your mind turns to the journal he kept whilst he was away for all those months in Transylvania. Oh, shall we snoop his journal? If you want to read Jonathan's journal while you were alone, turn to 272. If you prefer not to know what torments he was forced to endure while staying in that benighted region, turn to 307. Oh, does anybody have any opinions here? Should we be nosy and read his journal? I don't think it's a good thing in real life to read anyone else's journal. But maybe Mina is not so she doesn't agree with that, perhaps. Maybe she's okay with being nosy. Maybe she thinks it's justified because he's so tormented by something. And I guess he's not saying it outright. Alright, I think I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be nosy. Alright, let's go to 272 and be nosy. Now he's gonna be so mad at me. All right, 272. Locking yourself in your room. You begin to read the journal Jonathan kept while he was Dracula's guest. You do not finish until the sun is setting, and you hear Jonathan's key in the door. Poor dear, how he must have suffered, whether what you have read is the truth or merely the projections of an overactive imagination. You wonder if there's any truth at all in his terrible stories of bloodthirsty wolves, phantom women, and the coffin-dwelling count. They certainly terrify you. To think they might have happened to your dear husband makes it doubly worse. Add 2 points to your terror score. All right, so we're already in the second paragraph, and Mina has racked up a terror score of 2. Did your husband come down with his brain fever and then write all those terrible things? Or impossible as it seems, could there be some kernel of truth behind his rambling diary entries? He certainly believes it all himself. He seemed quite certain that he recognized the man he saw walking abroad on the streets of the capital. And in his journal, Jonathan said that the fearful Count was coming to London. If the monstrous Count has come to London with his teeming millions, you sense that some fearful solemn duty will come knocking at your door before too long. And if it does, you and Jonathan cannot permit yourselves to shrink from it. Tick off the code words Scientia, deduct 1 blood point, and turn to 307. Okay. Scientia, interesting. So you have this kind of a code word sheet in case anyone who was watching this or forgot. And these are global. They're not per character, right? So they're kind of states, right? Like a lot of game books have something like write a code word down or write a symbol down. And that's the way to keep track of certain things that might have occurred or certain states of the game. You know, for example, I don't know, say you had something like, I'm just making this up, you had some kind of a game book where you had a partner who was fighting alongside you, and if he ever dies, you would write partner dead. That's kind of a state. Then later on it might say, do you have the state or status or whatever, partner dead? And if so, go to here, your partner can't help you in that paragraph or something like that. You know, these are just kind of states or the way the things are shaping. But in this game, they're kind of vague, right? I mean, not always. But scientia, I'm not sure what that means. It sounds like science. And we've accumulated quite a few of these, but there's only been so much, you know, in the way of if you have this code word, go to here. It only happened like, I feel like 2 or 3 times maybe. All right. So we deduct 1 blood point, which is another kind of global thing, which represents, I guess, the power of Dracula. And because, I guess, because Mina is rallying and saying, hey, we gotta, you know, I know we've got to fight this guy or fight this menace. I guess that inspiration or that motivation knocks down the blood point by a little bit. All right. So we're going to 307. Alrighty. 307, letter, Van Helsing to Mrs. Harker. Interesting. 24th of September. Dear Sir or Madman, no, Dear Madam, I pray you to pardon my writing, for I sent to you sad news of Miss Lucy Westenra's death. By the kindness of Lord Godalming, I am empowered to read her letters and papers, for I am deeply concerned about certain matters vitally important. In them I found some letters from you which show what great friends you were and how you loved her. O Madam Mina, by that love I implore you, please help me. It is for others' good that I ask to redress a great wrong and to lift many terrible troubles that may be more great than you can know. May I see you? You can trust me. I am a friend of Dr. John Seward and of Lord Godalming. That was Miss Lucy's Arthur. Oh, right, okay. I will come to Exeter to see you at once if you tell me I can. I implore you pardon, ma'am. I implore your pardon, ma'am. I have read your letters to poor Lucy and know how good you are and how your husband has suffered. So I pray you, if it may be, enlighten him not, lest it may cause him harm. Again, I beg your pardon, and please forgive me, Van Helsing. Turn to 359. I just saw a "you are dead" message for Dracula on the other page. Just glanced at it. I don't want to spoil anything. I kind of think it's awesome that you can play as Dracula too. I don't want like this whole channel to be dominated by this book for too long, but I'm kind of tempted after this series, playing through as, the good guy, so to speak. When this ends, I'm almost tempted to say, now let's try it as Dracula. But I don't know. I'll probably show it for a while and, move on to other things. There's so much good gaming to do and so little time. You cannot help but feel excited as the time draws near for Professor Van Helsing's visit. Even though the reason for his coming is to find out more about Lucy's illness, you hope that he will also be able to throw some light upon your poor husband's experience. And as he attended your dear friend in her dying days, he can tell you all about her. She must have told him of her sleepwalking adventure on the cliff, and now he wants you to tell him what you know. That awful night on the cliff must have made her ill. Caught up in your own affairs, what with your journey to Budapest, your marriage to Jonathan, and your subsequent return to England, and Mr. Hawkins' sudden passing, you had almost forgotten how poorly she was afterwards. Professor Van Helsing must be a good man as well as a clever one, if he is a friend to both Arthur and Dr. Seward, and if they brought him all the way from Holland to look after Lucy. It is 2:30 when the knock comes. In a few minutes, Mary, your maidservant, opens the door and announces, Professor Van Helsing. You rise and bow, and he comes towards you. He is a man of medium weight, strongly built, with his shoulders set back over a broad, deep chest. The poise of his head strikes you at once as being indicative of thought and power. Mrs. Harker, is it not? That was Miss Mina Murray? You nod. Madam Mina, it is on account of the dead that I come. Taking your hand, he says, I have read your letters to Miss Lucy, and I know that you were with her at Whitby. She sometimes kept a diary, and in it she traced by inference certain things to an incident of sleepwalking, in which she puts down that you saved her. Please tell me all that you can remember of that night. And so you relate how you woke to find Lucy gone from her bed and followed her to the churchyard atop the east cliff, only to see her attacked by some manner of red-eyed beast. The professor listens intently as you tell your story, and only speaks when you are done. Ooh, that's a pleasant view. Madam Mina, is there anything else that I should know about your time in Whitby? Did you witness anything else out of the ordinary? Anything you observed yourself, or any strange occurrences you heard about at the time, perhaps? How many of the following code words do you have ticked off? Azrael, Barghest, Demeter. Let's check it out. I don't know if I have any of those, honestly. Let's see. Azrael, no. Barghest, no. Demeter, no. None of them, so I can't tell him jack. But that's kind of funny, because, like, what was it? I just kind of started as this character. Alright, I get, maybe if I had switched to her earlier, I would have learned of these things. Anyway, I don't have any of them. 378. Rack your brains as you might. You cannot think of anything else that might be of use to the professor in his investigations. Turn to 457. Excuse my voice. $4.57. Excuse me. Now, madam, tell me of your husband. Is he quite well? Oh, sorry. I think I need to take a brief break. Just sit here and take a few sips of my water. It can be hard to speak for a long time. I remember teachers in school would say that, like, oh, I can't speak anymore, so just do this assignment, and I'm gonna take a half-hour break or whatever. And it was hard for me to relate to, like, oh, it's really that hard to speak, but you do it for hours, and it can be hard. Although I've only been going on this stream for about 1 hour, so I don't have a huge excuse. All right. Seizing the opportunity, you share with the professor your concerns about Jonathan. You tell him how your beloved came into the care. Your beloved came into the care of Sister Agatha and the nuns of the hospital of Saint Joseph and Saint. Sorry, I'm trying to think of the word here. Is it Saint Mary, but with the E means female? I don't think I've encountered that before. Even though I've been to Catholic school, I don't think I've seen that before. Maybe it's an English thing. Hospital of Saint Joseph and Saint Mary in Budapest. How the sister wrote to you on his behalf, summoning you to his bedside, of the terrible brain fever he suffered, and the hallucinations of the terrible things he believed he had witnessed in Castle Dracula, brought on by the malady. Is all that fever gone? Van Helsing asks, and is he strong and hearty? He was almost recovered, but has been greatly upset by Mr. Hawkins' death, you reply. And when we were in London last night, he had a relapse. A shock, and so soon after a brave brain fever. That is not good. What kind of a shock was it? He thought he saw someone who recalled to his mind something terrible, something which led to his brain fever. Since yesterday, I have been in sort of a fever of my own, a fever of doubt. Please be kind and do not think me foolish that I have even half believed some very strange things. I have learned not to think little of anyone's belief, the professor reassures you. I try to keep an open mind when it comes to strange things, extraordinary things that would make me wonder if one was mad or sane. Hearing Van Helsing's words, you feel like a great weight has been taken off your mind. And decide it would be best if he were to read Jonathan's journal and draw his own conclusions regarding your husband's condition, which he duly does, reading at a rapid speed that is quite astonishing. Jonathan comes in and he's like, why is everybody reading my journal? I didn't give anyone permission here. When he is done, he closes the notebook and, smiling at you, says, you may sleep without doubt. Strange and terrible as your husband's diary is, it is true. I will pledge my life on it. And knowing now what he did, and the courage he displayed in doing so, I believe that he will be all right, but I would speak with him myself. And that is precisely what he does the very next morning, when Jonathan calls upon him at his hotel. To have his terrible tale believed by another, and to have it confirmed that he has not lost his sanity, and by such a man of science and intellect as Professor Van Helsing, makes a new man of him. And seeing the transformation that has come over your husband lifts your own spirits and helps banish some of your fears for the future. Deduct 1 point from your terror score. All right, so we just immediately gained 2 terror as Mina, and now we're back down to 1. Okay, terror score 1. Jonathan returns from seeing the professor off at the station and tells you that he has agreed, on behalf of both of you, that you will travel up to London again, if he should send for you. Your husband has spoken for you, and in this matter you are both of one mind. Turn to 348. I have a sneeze coming on. Okay. Apologies for the interruption. Shoot, where were we? We're at 348, right? Yeah. 348. Telegram. Mrs. Harker, Exeter, to Van Helsing, the Berkeley Hotel, London. Okay. 29th of September. Am coming up by train. Jonathan at Whitby. Important news. Mina Harker. It's only a matter of days before you hear from Professor Van Helsing again, asking you both to travel to London to meet with Lucy's former suitors who are to join you and Jonathan in putting an end to the Count's nefarious schemes. But he also gets Jonathan the task. He also sets Jonathan the task of finding out what happened to the cargo that was brought to England on board the doomed Demeter. Music's suddenly getting loud. I think it's not too bad though. I'll leave it. While Jonathan sets off for Whitby to try to trace that horrid cargo of the Count's, you take the train alone from Exeter to London. You arrive later that day at Paddington Station, where you are met by Lucy's brave Dr. Seward. You recognize him immediately, telling him, "I knew you from Lucy's description of you." You ride the underground together across London, and upon reaching Fenchurch Street Station, from there take another train, this time traveling to Purfleet. In due course, you arrive at Carfax Asylum, where you discover that Dr. Seward has had his housekeeper prepare a sitting room and bedroom for you. Having tidied yourself up after a long day of travel, you go down to Dr. Seward's study. At the door, you pause, and you can hear him talking with someone. You knock and he immediately calls out, "Come in." You enter, but to your intense surprise, there is no one with him. "I hope I did not keep you waiting," you say, "but I stayed at the door as I heard you talking and thought there was someone with you." "Oh, I was just entering my diary," he replies with a smile. "I keep it in this." As he speaks, he lays a hand on the device on the table opposite him, which you instantly recognize as a phonograph. "Why, this beats even shorthand," you blurt out excitedly. "May I hear it say something?" "Certainly," he replies, and makes the necessary changes to set it up for playback. But then he pauses, a troubled look on his face. "The fact is, I only keep my diary in it, which is almost entirely about my patients. You helped to attend dear Lucy at the end," you tell him, trying to help him out of his embarrassment. "Let me hear how she died, for she was very, very dear to me." He takes some persuading, but in the end he agrees. "Do you know, although I have kept the diary for months, I never once considered how I was going to find any particular part of it, in case I wanted to look it up. You need an index, table of contents or something." So he just had a pile of these of wax, basically. "Your mind is made up, for the diary of a doctor who attended Lucy might have something to add to the sum of your knowledge about the terrible being you must run to ground. And so you say quite boldly, 'Then, Dr. Seward, you had better let me copy it out for you on my typewriter.' You set to work immediately. You have already transcribed your own diary, starting from the day you arrived at Whitby, as well as that horrible journal Jonathan kept while he was in Transylvania. You do not complete your task until late the following afternoon. In transcribing the good doctor's phonograph cylinders, you become morbidly fascinated by his zoophagous how do you say that? Zoophagous patient, Mr. Renfield, to the point where you wonder what it would be like to meet him. Interesting. Do you want to take your courage in both hands and ask to see the deranged lunatic? 186. Or would you prefer to have nothing to do with the madman, no matter how much his case might intrigue you? 152. I think meeting a deranged lunatic seems like a fine way to spend my Saturday evening. Let us go to meet Renfield. I don't recall if in the original story does Mina go to meet Renfield. It's not a thing that strikes me as doesn't trigger a memory. But I don't know all the details of the story super well. $186. But you don't have to follow the exact path of the original story. It kind of makes me wonder though if Jonathan here often bases his game books on existing literature. Like we had the Beowulf one. There's one about Peter Pan, I think. So I wonder, does he always make it so, obviously you can deviate from the original story, but does he always make it so that you can recreate the original story, like the same outcomes can happen? That would be an interesting decision to make as an author. I feel like you'd have to, I would feel like I'd have to make it possible to follow the original story as well as deviate from it. It would feel weird to write a game book where you simply cannot follow the original story, But I don't know. Just a thought. At 5 o'clock that evening, when you present the finished bundle of typewritten pages to your host. Now, I wonder, did I type all of the cylinders, all the wax cylinders? I guess I did. Because he had no organization to it, so I must have had to listen to all of them for hours or whatever. At 5 o'clock that evening, you present the finished bundle of typewritten pages to your host. You recognize it as the perfect opportunity. Dr. Seward, may I ask a favor? I want to see your patient, Mr. Renfield. What you have said of him in your diary interests me greatly. Do let me see him. It seems that he cannot refuse you, and so, to your great relief, he accedes to your request. You enter Renfield's cell to find Dr. Seward's patient sitting on the edge of his bed, head down, but with his eyelids raised so that his eyes follow you as you enter the chamber. So he's got his head down, but he's looking up at you. Although his disheveled condition takes you aback, you nonetheless hold out your hand to him and address him. Good evening, Mr. Renfield. Oh, here we go. ESP test. Take an ESP test. Come on. I think I'm not sure if we've passed one of them maybe, but I feel like we've failed all the ESP tests so far. However, Miss Mina has the best ESP of all the characters. It is 8. None of them have like a super fantastic value of like 9 or 10. I guess 8 is nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty good. All right, let's. Sorry about that. Okay, let's switch our view here. Got the overhead cam. Oop. All right. Let's do some dice rolling. I'm gonna get my very gothic looking, my vampiric looking dice out, even though I'm not a vampire. I think that would be fun. If I can find them. I have this wonderful pouch. This was the first set, if I can find them, the first set of Chessex dice that I started collecting. But I didn't save these wonderful, I was stupid. These are like wonderful containers for them. They come in these. But with this first set I got, I did not save that. So I just put them in this dice pouch along with some other dice. These are my vampire dice. They look very vampire-like. All right, let's roll them. We need an 8 or less to make our ESP roll. And if tradition continues, we're going to fail by like 1. We made it. A 6 is less than or equal to 8, obviously. So we passed the roll. And that means we go to where? We go to paragraph 217. So we're going to pick up something from Renfield here before he gets to strike is my guess. Pick up some bad vibes. He failed the vibe check. He makes no immediate reply, but studies you intently with a frown on his face. His expression soon gives way to a look of wonder, which then merges with apparent doubt. "You're not the girl the doctor wanted to marry, are you?" Renfield says at last. "You can't be, you know, for she's dead." "Oh no, I have a husband of my own," you say, trying to smile through the tears welling in your eyes at the mention of poor Lucy's passing. "I am Mrs. Harker." "Then what are you doing here?" "My husband and I are staying with Dr. Seward for a short while." "Then don't stay." The lunatic's pronouncement is as unexpected as it is compassionate. "But why not?" you ask him. "I used to believe that by consuming a multitude of living things, no matter how low in the scale of creation, I might indefinitely prolong my life," he says, changing the subject, a distant look coming into his bulging eyes. "At times I held the belief so strongly that I actually tried to take human life. The doctor here will bear me out that on one occasion I tried to kill him for the purpose of strengthening my vital powers by assimilating his life, by consuming his blood. For the blood is the life. Is that not true, Doctor?" "It is time we left," Dr. Seward says uneasily, looking at his watch. "Goodbye," you say as you make to follow the doctor out of the cell, "and I hope I may see you again under auspices pleasanter to yourself." To your astonishment, Mr. Renfield replies, "Goodbye, my dear. I pray to God I may never see your sweet face again. May he bless and keep you." Dr. Seward escorts you back to your own room, and then leaves to collect Van Helsing while you wait for your husband to arrive. Take off the code word, psychopathia, and then turn to 592. Code word. Again, we are racking up a whole bunch of code words here, but let's find psychopathy. Where is it? Here we go. Just occurred to me it has these little sections where you're supposed to put the check, and I've not been using those. That's fine though. I'll keep doing what I'm doing, otherwise it'll get confusing. All right. 592. That would be kind of funny if it gave me the option to shift to playing Dracula like midway. Do you want to play as Count Dracula now? I'm pretty sure it keeps them separate. Keeps Dracula separate from the good guys. All right, here's our picture. We got one of these long paragraphs where they have a lovely picture as well. Looks like a bunch of folks hanging out, having some drinks, chatting, talking over serious matters. Nobody looks like they're drinking and having fun, right? They're not here to party. All right. 2 hours after supper, 6 of you gather in Dr. Seward's study and take your places around the table like some impromptu committee. So my audio has ended. I don't know if it matters, but let's keep it going. Somehow it stopped. Okay, yeah, I played through everything basically. I think we can live without it. My audio, I mean the library music I was playing very softly. 2 hours after supper, the 6 of you gather in Dr. Seward's study and make your places around the table like some impromptu committee. Professor Van Helsing takes the head of the table and makes the necessary introductions. My friends, in recent days we have all witnessed terrible things and have seen evidence of a corrupting evil working within the world, but I believe that we 6 have a chance to put an end to it. For we are uniquely blessed that our band has many skills that will help us to overcome our enemy and thwart his dastardly plans for conquest. We have Mr. Harker, who not only survived the horrors he encountered within the monster's lair, but had the courage to escape its confines, and whose solicitor's eye for detail has only increased our knowledge, and thereby the likely success of our scheme since returning to England. And we have Mrs. Harker, who has also witnessed firsthand the powers the blackguard can command. The blackguard, I guess you say it like. Some people say that word, right? Blackguard. Powers the blackguard can command, and whose scrupulous secretarial skills so that somehow seems sexist, but I don't think he means anything bad by it. Good thing we got a woman here for her secretarial skill. It almost sounds like that. Anyway, let's keep going. Whose scrupulous secretarial skills mean that we have as complete a record of the monster's actions to date as it is possible to have. Thanks to Lord Godalming, considerable resources we need not want for anything in our fight against this foreign invader. Be it bullets or train tickets, he has kindly said that he will cover all costs. And along with Arthur's generosity, we have Mr. Quincy Morris's courage and redoubtable combat skills. All right, Quincy can beat everybody up. With this brave Texan in our midst, we shall take the fight to the enemy and win. Yeah, you don't mess with Texas, right? Then there is my friend, Dr. John Seward, whose medical knowledge rivals my own, and whose insights into the workings of the mind are even greater. Fortuitously, or is it the hand of fate aiding us in our endeavor, his study of a patient in his care, a certain Mr. Renfield, himself formerly an employee of Hawkins, Oldman, and Lee in Exeter, has helped us learn where we must begin the hunt for the fiend. But before we do, I must tell you something of the kind of enemy we now face. For you must understand that there are such things as vampires, and there is much evidence that they exist. I admit that at first I myself was a skeptic, and alas, had I known from the outset what I now know to be true, the life of dear Miss Westenra might have been saved. But sadly she is gone, and so here's our crew again, the motley crew. As we turn the page, we must work to ensure that other poor souls perish not, whilst we can save them. The Nosferatu do not die like the bee when he stings but once. He is stronger, and being stronger has more power to do evil. This vampire which we now seek to destroy has the strength of 20 men. He has grown cunning through the ages, and through the power of necromancy, the dead are his to command. He is the devil himself, able to bend the elements to his will, the storm, the fog, the thunder, and he can command the meaner forms of life, the rat, the bat, the moth, and the wolf. He can even make himself invisible. How then are we to begin our crusade to put an end to him? How shall we find where he is hiding? And having found it, how shall we put an end to him? My friends, it is a terrible task that we are about to undertake, and there may be consequences that would make a brave man shudder. But if we fail in our task, he will surely win. And to fail here is not merely a matter of life or death. It is that we become as he is, foul things of the night without compassion or conscience, preying on the bodies and the souls of those we love best. The gates of heaven shut to us forever, abhorred by all, a blot on the face of God's creation. It is our duty to face him and destroy him. And who would shrink from such a duty? What say you? Are you with me? Everyone replies raucously in the affirmative. That was quite a speech by Professor Van Helsing. You all agree wholeheartedly not to rest until the monster has been vanquished. And so you all join hands, and your solemn pact is made. And now, says Van Helsing, Let us share all we have learnt about the monster we face. And he proceeds to go around the table, asking each of you in turn to share with the rest what you have personally experienced, witnessed, and discovered. All right, here we go. How many of the following code words do you have ticked off? Okay. I feel like not too many of these ones, but let's see. We know nothing about him. All right, so we're going to pull up the old code word sheet. And I guess we'll count together. Anthropophagy. Anthropophagy? Anthropophagy, no. Arachnophilia, no. Barbastella, no. Bogey, no. This is not going well. The cadaver, no. How do we not know anything? We've seen so much. Demeter, no. Desmodontine, no. Eptesicus, yes, there's a 1. We have 1 so far. 1. Exsanguination, no. Lunatic, no. Monomania, no. Psychopathia, that one we definitely have. We just checked that off. 2. Quinquaginta? Quinquaginta? Sorry, I don't know these words. No. Sarcani, yes. 3. Scientia, yes, we got that one. 4. All right, now we're cooking a little bit. Slave, I don't think we have that one. No. Somnambulism, that means sleepwalking. No. I know what one of the words means. Strigoi. No Strigoi. Terkep. Yes, got 5. Tukor. Yes, we got 6. Amount of fingers on this hand. And lastly, Zoophagus. No, so 6 is our count. All right, I mean, I don't know what's good per se, but at least towards the end we started picking them. Unfortunately, 6 is like just at the high end of the second one. I'm assuming that more is better here, but we're kind of in the second worst category, and it's unfortunate that we're just kind of, at the high end of that, so it doesn't really help us. We might as well be at the low end. It doesn't make a difference. All right, so we know some things, but not a huge amount, I guess. But notice you can't have 0. I guess you have to have at least 1 by the time you get here, or else it's kind of an error and it should say 3 or less. I feel like with this author, it was well tested, and maybe it's not all attributed to the author, by the way, because usually books like this need a lot of play testers, and those people deserve credit too. He probably did credit them in the intro or something. But an interesting thing is one of the word desmodontine is mentioned in this other paragraph. All right, 6. We're gonna go to 889. I wish we had just 1 more. We could be bumped to the next category, but alas. I'm assuming more is better here. It does not take you long to share what you know, as between you have not actually learned very much. Oh, man. You hope that the professor has learned more than you during his sojourns to Amsterdam. Gain 2 blood points and turn his 978. It might just be that's how much blood you get. You get to subtract. And nothing more than that. So we just subtracted 2 blood, and now Dracula's down to 3. And again, this is kind of just like a global measure of the vampire threat, or the Dracula threat. So, I was going to say to satisfy my curiosity, I'm going to check what one of the other entries is, but I'd have to remember where I was before. And you could argue that's spoiling it. Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. That's probably what it is. Like, the more the more you get to subtract from the blood. But I don't know. Actually, it's not that bad subtracting 2 from 5 blood. That seems pretty good. All right, 978. Maybe it's just the number of category. Like, I was in the second worst category, so I got 2. So maybe it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. 978. All right, we got another big entry here. And I'm gonna pull out ye old screwdriver. Bear with me a second. I have these arms that I use to hold up the stand. The right one has been going for a while, and I thought I repaired it pretty good, but the repair job did hold for a while, but it's been loose again, so I just have to screw it back in once in a while, so it's not super loose. All right, that should help a little bit. All right. Quiet night tonight. I found my streams. I'm going to tell you a very obvious statement. My streams that tend to be super well hopping are the ones that I advertise. But I only advertise them if I know of an appropriate place and where I've kind of already, typically it's a community where I've already participated, like, a Facebook group or a subreddit. I did once ask, before I started the first part of this Dracula series, I asked the moderators of the Gamebook subreddit if it would be okay to share the link. And they said, yeah, it's okay to advertise, but, just don't make like a big habit out of it or anything. So I only shared the first part. And then I didn't feel like it was appropriate to share the rest. Because, basically said don't repeatedly do it. So I wonder I don't really remember if the first part was especially hopping or not. I'm pretty quiet tonight. That's all right, though, because I'm having fun. And I hope that the 2 of you who are watching are also having fun. It looks like it's Eric, probably, and someone else. Is it Arturo? Who else is there? Somebody say hi. All right. So here we are at 978. And also, thank you for the like. I saw 2 likes before I even started streaming, which is kind of funny. It's always funny when that happens. I do like the likes. It helps with the channel. I used to be like, who cares about the likes? But I heard that it actually helps the channel. So I think that's awesome. All right. Right then. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Let's read. Let's read some more. By the way, I am doing a thing. I might have mentioned this before. I'm trying to do my streams a little bit earlier and ending them a bit earlier. Just to kind of stay on a good sleeping schedule. So I used to do the Saturday night streams at 9:15 all the time, but I'm trying to do them at like 8:30-ish. Tonight I started at 8:45 because it took me a while to set up. Yeah, just in case anyone cares about scheduling stuff. Overall, I'm trying to do everything a little bit earlier and not stay up super late. And especially my wife appreciates it when I'm not like up at, until like 12:30 or something like that. Because then I wake up later and, you know how things like that go. All right. But anyway. So anyway, I guess my point is, I don't know when I'm going to end this stream, but I might end it within like soonish. Let's just say that. Soonish, when it seems like maybe there's a good opportunity to take a break. Like, a good clear division and something happening perhaps. Otherwise, I would say probably hard stop at, let's go with 11. Or, if I'm in the middle of a fight or something, I can finish that up first. So not necessarily a purely hard stop. All right, let's continue reading. When everyone else has had a chance to speak, Arthur rises from his seat at the table. By the way, sorry to interrupt you. By 11, I mean my time. I am in the Eastern U.S. time zone. It is currently 10:22. So essentially, I'm going to end in 38 minutes if there's not a good convenient point to stop before then. All right, when everyone else at the table everyone else has had a chance to speak, Arthur rises from his seat at the table. Professor, you mentioned that the monster has grown cunning through the ages, not years, ages. The vampire cannot die by the mere passing of time, and he flourishes on the blood of the living, Van Helsing explains. And having feasted, he can grow even younger. He can even grow younger, but he cannot flourish without his diet. Even Jonathan, who lived with him for weeks, never saw him eat. He casts no shadow and makes no reflection in a mirror. He can change his shape. He can come in the form of mist, and he can see in the dark. He can do all these things, and yet he is not free to come and go as he pleases. He may not enter anywhere unless he has been invited in. His power ceases with the coming of the day, and at which time he must return to his hiding place within unhallowed ground, such as the grave of a suicide. It is also said that he cannot pass over running water. Then there are things which can harm him, including garlic and holy artifacts, the crucifix, the host. There are others too. A branch. Let's pivot over here. This is one of these pages that's kind of at the end of the book. They're harder to display, kind of, because they're kind of very loose. Sorry, there are others too. A branch of wild rose on his coffin will keep him from leaving it. A sacred bullet fired into the coffin will kill him truly dead, as will a stake driven through his heart and having his head cut off. You know, he's got some pretty serious weaknesses, if you all things considered. You know, it seems like you could probably, I don't think they addressed this. If you could just, get rid of his dirt somehow. If you just found his resting place, even if he was out and about, you could just get rid of the dirt. He'd be screwed. Anyway. Or just put a rose on his coffin. That's it. A wild rose. He can't. What could he do then at that point, right? Or would like some of his minions somehow know to go and try to free him from the rose? Anyway, if we can find where the monster is hiding, we can confine him to his coffin and destroy him, if we obey what we know. But we must ever be watchful and wary, for he is clever. For a moment, the only sound in the room is the ticking of the clock on the mantelpiece. So who was this Count Dracula when he was but a mortal man? Asks Arthur. I asked my friend Arminius of Budapest University to find out the answer to this very question, scouring all the ancient chronicles and documents that are available to him. And he is certain that he was once the voivode Dracula, who won the title of warlord fighting against the Turks at the very frontier of the Ottoman Empire on the borders of Wallachia. Even then, he was no common man, for at the time of his reign, and for centuries after, he was spoken of as the cleverest and the most cunning, as well as the bravest of the sons of the land beyond the forest. That mighty intellect and iron resolution went with him to his grave, and are even now arrayed against us. The Draculas were a great and noble race, although there were rumors that certain scions had dealings with the devil. They learned their secrets in the Shalamads, a school of black magic hidden among the mountains. In one manuscript, this very Dracula is spoken as Wampir, a name we all recognize too well. Or a name we recognize all too well. And now we must decide upon a course of action, picking up the chronological account that comprises the contents of 3 diaries, as well as telegrams, letters, and newspaper clippings, he says. We have here much data, and must proceed to plan our campaign. We know from the inquiry of Jonathan that from the castle to Whitby came 50 boxes of earth, all of which were delivered at Carfax. It seems to me that our first step should be to ascertain whether they remain in the grounds of Carfax House or whether any have been removed. Take an ESP test. All right, Mina, show us what you got with your superior ESP. Now I have to put my arm back up here, my book arm. And let's switch to our overhead view. Right? And once again, the ESP score of Mina, who is now Mina Harker, not Mina Murray, is 8. So let's make that happen. All right, Mina. Show us your ESP skill. We rolled a 6. Good enough. And so we turn to 408 as a successful roll. Hey, thanks for the like, people. Suddenly we have 4 likes. And yet it tells me 2 people are watching. Maybe people have cycled in and out. Yeah, 408, right? Professor Van Helsing's words fade into the background as your subconscious seeks to tell you something. And you find your attention wandering to the window. The curtains have not yet been drawn, and you can see something there. A dark shape scratching at the glass, clinging to the windowsill. There's something at the window, you cry, interrupting the professor, but then it is gone. Quincy Morris jumps to his feet and rushes out of the room. Yeah, go Texan boy. That is the Texan, right, Quincy? While Arthur flies to the window and throws up the sash. From outside the house comes the sound of a pistol shot, and a moment later, you hear Quincy call to the rest of you, still in the study. It was a bat, and a big brute, too. Did you hit it? Asks Van Helsing. I don't know, comes Quincy's reply, but I fancy not. It flew away into the wood. Deduct 1 blood point and turn to 427. Cool, so we shot Dracula, perhaps. Or some minion of his. And crossing off 1 blood point takes us down to 2, which seems pretty good. It's not 0, but it seems pretty good. Turn to 427. Board. Okay. Combating Rem, if you look at it. That's not where we are, but just a fun thing to catch. I do like, I try not to spoil by reading other paragraphs, but sometimes you catch a glimpse of something else, like, oh, there's a combat with Count Dracula himself. Cool. In that case, it was Renfield. There's no time to lose, urges the professor. We must find those boxes, and if we encounter our enemy, we must kill this monster in his lair. But if he eludes us, we must nonetheless sterilize the earth they contain. Oh, yeah. He does have that kind of plan. So that he can never again seek shelter within them. And if any have been removed, we must trace their whereabouts. We have an option here. If you wish to continue the story as Jonathan Harker, turn to 4. If you want to continue as Mina Harker, turn to 229. And if you want to continue the adventure as Dr. John Seward, turn to 446. So we've been all these characters now. I feel like we didn't do a heck of a lot as Mina, except we made some really nice ESP rolls. Jonathan Harker's been through the ringer more than anyone else here. You can just look at all the crossings off on his sheet. His current endurance is 21. His terror is horrible. He is scared poopless. He's got some good equipment, though, including brandy. I'm kind of thinking maybe I should cycle back to Jonathan Harker anyway, though. Or maybe I don't think I want to be John Seward right now, but maybe I'll continue as I'm debating continuing as Mina or going back to Jonathan. Again, I invite you guys in the chat to chime in if you have any opinions, although it's been pretty quiet in the chat. And that's okay if you don't want to chime in, that's fine. So basically, yeah, I'm debating Mina or Jonathan. Which of the Harker couple should I choose? I mean, yeah, these ESP rolls have been great as Mina. I am kind of a little scared that Jonathan needs something to temper his terror, or he's going to be in bad shape if he has to make a terror roll. The way the terror rolls work is you roll 4 dice, and if you I think it's 4 dice, right? And if you roll equal to or less than your terror, or just less than your terror, you fail, I believe. And so if you think about the probabilities of that, right? When you roll a bunch of dice, the average, the theoretical average is 3.5 for each dice. So that means for 4 dice, it's going to be 14, which basically means that if you do a bell curve of of the dice probabilities, right? Something like this, then the peak is going to be 14 and we're at 15. So I think it's less equal. Oh, I think it's less than your score would be a failure. So essentially, I think what it means is this whole 50% of the bell curve is a failure of a terror roll at this point. If I did my math correctly. In other words, yeah, he's going to be failing half of them. But, you know, playing as him, maybe we'd have the opportunity to cure his terror. And also, he could use his golden crucifix and stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'll go switch back to Jonathan. Let's do it. Since nobody has any opinions, right? Nope. Okay. I am gonna play as Jonathan again. Turn to 4. Do 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 do. And now for you, Madam Mina. Okay, so we're continuing the same conversation here, but I am now Jonathan. I'm reading from the point of view of Jonathan, I guess. And now for you, Madam Mina, Van Helsing says, turning to your wife. This marks the end of your part in the proceedings until all is well. You are too precious to risk taking with us. Wait, so if I were playing her, could I object and insist I go with him or something like that? Anyway, you're too precious to risk taking with us. We are men and are able to bear what must happen this night. Sexist. But you must remain our star and our hope, and we shall act all the more freely knowing that you are not in danger. You feel greatly relieved upon hearing the professor's pronouncement, even though Mina appears less than happy with the situation. But she does not want her mere presence among the party to put the rest of you in harm's way, and though it is a bitter pill for her to swallow, she agrees to remain behind in your rooms at the asylum. Turn to 159. It does make me wonder, would you be able to insist that you go as Mina? Under the cover of darkness. The 5 of you leave Carfax Asylum and leave each other and help each other clamber over the boundary wall the hospital shares with Carfax House. Each of you is armed with a revolver and a large knife. For other enemies more mundane, as Van Helsing puts it, and you all carry a small electric lamp fastened to your breast just in case. Record the revolver, large knife, electric lamp, and equipment box on your adventure sheet. All right, so we got quite a lot of equipment as Jonathan here. We lost the saber though, which was a cool thing that we found in the trophy room of Dracula. It was like an old trophy from a centuries old war, and that we were able to fight with that, but we lost it at some point. I think Dracula made us lose it. But we do have a revolver. It's cramming all the stuff here. It's kind of cramped. What was it? Large knife and electric lamp. Okay, I managed to cramp that in there. He's still carrying around antique coins, and he has good luck tokens, golden crucifix, all good stuff. Taking care to keep to the shadows cast by the trees that grow close to the wall, you discuss where to look for the boxes of earth. What do you want to suggest? To search the grounds first? 142 or head to the house straight away? I don't know. I don't really have any reason to prefer one or the other, offhand. But I just realized I have my save paragraph here. I'm just gonna erase that real quick. Maybe I will, and again, feel free to chime in the chat if you have any thoughts, but maybe I'll just search the grounds first. Or we could have, like, there's 5 of us, right? We could split up. A few go in the house, a few go in on the grounds. Van Helsing agrees that it might be wise not to assume that the boxes have been stored in the house. And so the 5 of you split up. So we do split up, but we're searching the grounds separately. Oh, that sounds dumb. We need to buddy up or something. How about one group of 2 and one group of 3? Nope, we're splitting up. Okay. Search the grounds, each of you promising to give a whistle if you find anything. You head north to where an ancient apple orchard has grown into a copse of tangled, lichen-barked trees. Hearing a sound like the flapping of laundry on a line has you looking upward, and there, silhouetted against the moon, you see dozens of leathery winged bats descending from out of the night sky. You manage to remember to give a shrill whistle, and then the bats attack. If you want to use the pen is mightier special ability, and you still can turn to 127, if not turn to 104. So we got a combat, I guess, happening here. And I've been stingy with the pen is mightier, especially with Jonathan. I had, like, I feel like at least 3 chances to use it, but every time I was like, nah, I can probably handle this. But I did use it once as John Seward. However, now we are controlling Jonathan Harker again, so I could use one of them. I mean, I do have 3. At the same time, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like they're probably not the hardest combat, and I do have a large knife and stuff, although it didn't tell me offhand that the large knife adds to my combat roll. And I do have a subtracted 1 combat, unfortunately, from something. I don't recall what anymore. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be super stingy with the pen is mightier, right? Let's do it. I'm going to use the pen is mightier. We're going to deal with these bats. So I check off one of those from Jonathan Harker's character sheet. Sorry to be out of view here. Yeah, it's not like I felt desperate here, but I got 3 of them. Let's use it. And anything that can help. I don't know if his terror would go down from a battle. I feel like probably not. Now I'm second guessing because my endurance is really fine. Well, really, I don't know what's going to happen though. So it might not be a standard combat. It might be something like horrible. It could actually make my terror worse. Anyway, I'm going to go with it. Pen is mightier. Turn to 127. And by the way, for those who might not have followed, in this book, as well as in the Krampus book I played, which is also by Jonathan Green, and perhaps others, I don't really know, but he has this concept of the pen is mightier, where it's like kind of a cheat code almost. And the idea is you don't have to deal with the negative consequences or deal with a combat. It's like an automatic win, and you're allowed to do it 3 times per book. But in this game, in this particular book, you can do it 3 times per character for the whole book. So that's kind of neat. It's kind of just, it's almost like plot armor. The author writes that you automatically succeed, so you don't have to solve the problem yourself. All right, so several pistol shots ring out through the night, sending loud sounding loud in the darkness and shrieking the... Sorry, let me read that again. Several pistol shots ring out through the night. Sounding loud in the darkness and shrieking, the bats flee. Cross off one use of the pen as mightier special ability and turn to 81. Alright, so they conveniently got scared away by the gunshots. I'm not sure who fired the guns. I don't think it was me necessarily. The bats fly. I get entangled in my own stuff here. Hang on a second. In my own cords. Okay. The bats fly off toward the shadowy silhouette of Carfax House. And you can't help wondering if they're going to report back on your presence here. Oh, man. Gain 2 blood points. That kind of sucks. I felt like I used the cheat code, so to speak, and it's still a negative consequence. I guess it would be too much to expect that if it's like a huge swarm of bats. I don't know. What's the term for a collection of bats? I'll go with swarm anyway. I guess it would be too much to expect that a huge swarm of bats could be like totally eliminated. And if I did fight them, I don't think I would kill them all. It would probably be like you have to fight, 4 of them, and if you beat them all, the rest fly away in fear or something like, something like that. And I'd probably take some hits in the meantime. But anyway, gain 2 blood points because they were probably reporting back to Dracula. That's the idea. So we're back at 4 blood. I was so happy that we were down to 2 because it felt very good, very safe almost. But now we're back up at 4. Just like that. It is then that the others arrive, summoned by your whistle. Oh, I must have shot at them then. With no one having found any sign of the boxes having been stored anywhere else within the grounds, you all hasten to the house. So that was just a lose, basically. I didn't gain anything out of searching the ground, only just added blood. Oh well, 47 we're going to. Is that what it said? Right? Yeah, 47. What time we at? 10:45. So once again, I'm probably going to wrap this up at about 11, or if I see a really good, place to transition, or an end point of some sort, so to speak. When you get to the porch, the professor opens his bag and takes out all manner of items, which he lays on the steps, sorting them into 4 groups, evidently one for each of you. My friends, he says in a barely audible whisper, we are heading into terrible danger. We need to arm ourselves accordingly. Remember, our enemy has a strength of 20 men. Excuse me. We must guard ourselves from his touch. Keep this near your heart. We got so many weaknesses. I feel like it wouldn't be hard. You got the Eucharists. You got garlic. You could have steaks. You could you could have roses in case you stumble across his coffin. You could just smear make a paste out of the garlic and the host, mash it together. Smear your body in it. All right, where are we here? All right, keep this near your heart. Let's see what he gives us. All right, now we got a silver crucifix. So I have a golden one and a silver one. Yeah, the crucifix too is one of the things we could all have. All right. He says, giving each member of your party a small silver crucifix, and put these flowers round your neck. He hands each of you a wreath of withered garlic blossoms, and all of this, which we must. I guess it is basically what I said, except we're not smearing it on our bodies. And all of this, which we must not desecrate needlessly. Maybe smearing it when we can is desecrating it. This is a portion of sacred wafer, blessed during the Holy Eucharist, which he has put into envelopes, and which he shares out among your brave band now. Record the silver crucifix, the garlic garland, and the sacred wafer in the equipment box on your adventure sheet. Dude, Jonathan is loaded now. All right, Jonathan Harker, you got silver crucifix in addition to a golden one. You never know which precious metal you might need in your crucifix. Garlic garland. And lastly, the sacred wafer. All right, I've updated the equipment box. You can see sacred wafer, garlic garland, silver crucifix. And this is everything he has in total at this point. He has, in addition to what I just said, he has a golden crucifix, good luck tokens, a large knife, an electric lamp. Is 4 uses of flask from brandy, which I should not forget about, revolver, and antique coins. And how does that work again? The brandy can I think it can actually cure your terror, but you lose some combat. But there's some nuance to how it works. Let's look it up real quick at 139, I believe I wrote. 139. Then I'll return to this paragraph. So let's just hold that thought here. And if you look at 139 here, all right, it heals you. So each time you drink it, it has 4 measures. It'll restore 3 endurance. However, if you drink more than 1 measure in one go, which I'm not really sure, I guess that means that maybe in one paragraph you could count it as. You must also reduce your combat by 1 for each measure above the initial one you drink. So if you drink 1, you get 3 endurance points. You drink 2, you get 6 endurance points, but you lose 1 combat. But you may also deduct 1 point from your terror. So you drink 2, you drink 1 measure, you heal 3 endurance. You drink 2, you heal 3 endurance, and you lose 1 combat, and you lose 1 terror. But if you drink 3, you would not get the cumulative terror. However, the combat would be cumulative. That's my interpretation. I give you the example here. And they give you an example if you drink 4, actually, is what they say. If you empty the bottle in one go, meaning drinking all 4, you would have to reduce your combat score by 3 points, but you would only reduce your terror by 1. I wonder if I should just like drink 2. Next time my endurance is down by 6. Right now it's down by 3. So if I say when it's down by 6, I'll just drink 2 of them. And if I'm not in a combat, I guess it shouldn't matter, right? Oh, okay. The combat is reduced by 1 until after your next battle. So you can't just say, well, I drank it out of combat, so it doesn't matter. You would drink it, your combat's down. You have to do 1 fight. You're drunk until your next fight, basically. At which point, your combat is fine again. So I don't know. It's hard to say when's a good timing to do that, because I don't know what I'm going to... I don't know who I'm going to fight when, basically. But, presumably I'm not going to fight Dracula himself just yet, so... I could do that if I want to sometime soon, perhaps. Anyway, for now I'm not gonna, because I don't even have, I'm not even 6 endurance down, so I feel like it would be wasteful to do 2 of them. I could do 1, but I'm not really concerned. Having 21 endurance is not terrible. All right, so back over here, and now we must gain ingress to the house. If you have a set of skeleton keys, I do not. Turn to the number stamped on the tag they are attached to. If you do not have a set of skeleton keys, turn to 18. I hate when you feel like, oh man, I must have really missed something. Like, especially when it's like they list a whole lot of things, and you're like, no, I don't have any of those. Look, I'm fighting Quincy Morris now. No, with 5 of you working together, you manage to force the door and thereby gain entry to Carfax house. The splintering of the wood around the lock and the clatter of the mechanism falling to the floor, echoing through the passageways of the old mansion. Gain 2 blood points. Boo. And go to 301. So once again, our blood is going higher. So it was down pretty low, and now it's up all the way up to 6 again. And this is tied with the highest we've ever had it. If you look at the history here, we went from 2, 3, 6, 5, 3, 2, 4, 6. So yeah, we kind of I guess using the skeleton key, we would open the door quietly, and therefore we would not increase blood by making a lot of noise. We've alerted somebody, basically, is the idea. as I interpret it. $301. The professor is the first to step forward and enter the house. And manus tuas domine, he mutters. Sorry, I don't know how to say that offhand. He mutters, crossing himself as he passes over the threshold. Turning the page, turning the page. Once you are all inside, you close the door behind you and ignite your lamps. Okay, it's dark in here, I suppose. The whole place is thick with dust. The floor is seemingly inches deep with it. Excuse me. On a table in the hall, you find a great bunch of keys with a time yellow label on each. They have been used several times, for there are several rents in the blanket of dust covering the table. If you have a map of Carfax, oh man, once again I'm like, oh, again I'm missing something that I should have. Like I don't even know what opportunity I would have had to find. I guess I mean, who knows? I had an opportunity to be Jonathan Harker at a different time and I wasn't, so maybe that was when I would have been able to find this stuff. You know, I switched to Seward as soon as Harker escaped from Dracula's castle. So who knows? Anyway, I don't have it. So 328. Yeah, I do feel like I'm bumbling my way through things at this point. In front of you, a broad stone staircase leads upwards. While to the right of the stairs, a passageway leads off into the gloom of the house. Your companions discuss which way to go, but the four of them cannot reach a consensus of opinion. They are split precisely down the middle, two voting to head up the stairs and two thinking that you should follow the stone passageway. The one thing you all agree on is that you should stick together. It would appear that you, my friend, have the deciding vote, Van Helsing says gruffly. So what is it to be? Oh, making me decide. Nobody offered any reasoning or justification, so I don't know. It's just 6 of one, half a dozen or the other. Well, can I figure out a reason here? Not really. Passageway. Oh, let's just go to the passageway. You know, I'll kind of follow my rule of thumb when I'm playing like a roguelike game or an RPG. Explore the full level you're on before taking the stairs to the next level. All right, so we're going to follow the passageway. 287. Oh, I'm gonna enjoy this check here. Watch, I'll show you why. With the professor leading, you set off along the passageway. If the blood score is equal to or greater than 6. Oh no, I hate this because I fell by the boundary. Ah, it sucks. I thought it was the other way around for a second. If the blood score is equal to or greater than 6, which it is at 6, turn to 288. If it's lower than 6, turn to 734. I was about to be like, cool, I just barely made it, but then I read it more closely, and I like the minimal level to fail, which is frustrating because I could have had 20 and it would be the same outcome basically. All right, 288 is right below here actually. As you make your way along the passageway, at the limit of your lamp beams, you become aware of a mass of phosphorescence which twinkles like stars. You all instinctively come to a halt as you realize that a tidal wave of rats is surging towards you. These are no mere common black or brown rats, but monstrous horrors, each the size of a small dog. Add 1 to your terror score. How good terror is at 16 now. For Jonathan Harker, he's not doing well. They swarm along the corridor in ever-multiplying numbers until the lamplight shining on their dark bodies and glittering, baleful eyes make the place look like a bank of earth set with fireflies. Take an agility tester. Let's hope we at least make this. I feel like I don't need to get steamrolled by dog-sized rats here. But let's take a look. Our character sheet says Jonathan Harker's agility is a solid 9. We can roll with that. We can roll with that quite literally. Ha 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 ha. Sorry, having a little trouble here. Okay. Overhead map time. Overhead camera time. That is. All right, let's get a good roll of 9 or less here. 7. Success. Okay, in that case, we go to pass the test, turn to 314. Throwing yourself against the cold stone wall of the musty. Bear with me a second. I gotta move some stuff around here. Sorry about that. I have one of these. It's not a tripod for my camera, but it's like this stand with these bendable legs, and they've gotten all out of shape. Sorry about that. All right, we're in good shape now. All right. Throwing yourself against the cold stone wall of the musty passageway, you watch in revulsion at the rat's rippling bodies surge past you until they vanish into the house. Following the trail left by the vile rodents, convinced that it will lead you to your desired destination, sure enough, you soon find yourselves before a low arched oaken door, banded with iron. Turn to 606. This is the spot, announces the professor in a half whisper as he opens the door. You are expecting some unpleasantness, but you doubt that any among your party ever expected to be confronted by such an odor as the one that assails you now from the neglected chapel. The sanctuary is small and close, and its long disuse has made the air stagnant and foul. There is an earthy smell which cuts through the fouler air, but as to the odor itself, you believe it to be composed of all the ills of mortality mixed with the pungent, acrid smell of blood, as if the very corruption has itself been corrupted. It is as if every breath exhaled by the monster you seek has clung to the place, intensifying its loathsome foulness. Take an endurance test. If you pass the test, turn to 644. If you fail, 681. At least their endurance is pretty great. This is one of those 4 dice rolls. And so I currently have 21. I know I have a bunch of chicken scratch here, but in front of my thumb is my current endurance of 21. Essentially, I need to roll that or less on 4 dice, which it should be easy peasy. But you never know, I guess. You need another 2 dice for the roll. If you wanted to get into the math a little bit, we need anything but 22, 23, or 24 to fail. And gee, to roll those, you need you need a lot of 6s, right? You would need, first of all, this is a 24, right? That would be a fail, but if one of them is a 5, that's a fail. If 2 of them are a 5, I can't find the 5, then that would be a 22, which is a fail. But pretty much anything else, and I'm good. Or I mean, this could be a 4 and one of them is a 6, like so. That would also be a fail. So it's extremely unlikely that I fail this, but it could happen. Stranger things have happened. Looks like we made that quite easily. We rolled a total of 9, 12, 15, which is clearly less than or equal to 21. So we turn to 644 as indicated here. In any other circumstance, such a stench would bring your enterprise to an end at once. But this is no ordinary situation. The vital purpose that has brought you here gives you the strength to rise above merely physical considerations. After the involuntary drawing back at the first nauseous whiff, every member of your party presses on into the chapel. I did realize it is after 11. I said I would stop here. Let me see if I can finish up this little expedition here. I assume gonna happen if they don't find the Earth. I don't know. I don't know. Let's wrap it up though. Let's like try to come to a clean stop to the scenario basically, or a clean break point, I guess I should say. So murderer is Count Yorga. Oh no, it's this one. What? Who's Count Yorga? All right. Count Yorga. Inside the chapel, resting upon the packed earth floor, are dozens of bulky wooden crates. Okay, so we do find them. Bulky wooden crates, their lids nailed shut. The first thing we must do is count the boxes, says the professor. Yeah, of course there's not all. We don't have all of them. It does not take long to ascertain the number, and to the horror of you all, there are only 29 left out of the 50 that the Count had transported to England on board the Russian schooner. Take an ESP test. All right, let's do it. I feel like only Mina ever passes these, but ESP of 7 on Jonathan is not terrible. I mean, talk about the bell curve again, right? That is 7 is, I believe, the peak. So 7 or less is it fit? I think it's better than 50% actually. Something like 50. 7 or less, it might be something like 56% or something like that. But nonetheless, for one trial is essentially a coin flip. It will only make a difference in repeated trials. That's my view. In other words, anything could happen. All right. So let's see if we can pull this off. Seven or less. Come on, we can do this. I think our tradition is only Mina can pass these rolls, but I'm hoping we're going to break the tradition right now. Come on, Jonathan, you can do it. No, you cannot do it. Shoot. Okay, only Mina can pass these. That's the rule. Okay, if you fail, go to 564. Once again, something supernatural is going to elude us. And we're going to get attacked or something bad happens. We might be facing this fellow on the right. Yeah, look, he breaks it out of the box. Oh my goodness. Okay. His arm is strategically covering his junk, by the way. In case anyone was wondering about that. Okay, here we go. And now, my friend, the professor addresses you. We have a duty to do. We must sterilize the earth that he has brought from a far distant land for such fell use. It is sacred to him because it is of his homeland. But we will sanctify it in God's name, purifying it and denying the evil one his sanctuary. As he speaks, he takes from his bag a screwdriver and a wrench and opens one of the crates. The earth it contains is redolent with the odors of damp and mildew. Taking up the tools, the rest of you prepare to follow the professor's example. Using your knife, you prise open one of the crates and immediately recoil in horror. You can see dead fingers and the mottled pate of a head half buried within the soil. Your horror is only compounded when the fingers suddenly start to twitch and you stagger back in appalled disbelief. Before your very eyes, a hand emerges from the moldering loam, followed by another, and together they heave the body buried within the box from the stinking earth. Its features are half rotted away, and its skin, that is like old white leather, is stretched over the bones of its rib cage. Take a terror test. This is where this is where I was talking about my terror being pretty terrible. Terrible terror. So yeah, we got 16, which I'll look up the boundary case as needed, but I think I need to roll 16 or higher on 4 dice to succeed. Which again, we talked about that. I drew this bell curve pretty quickly. 14 or less is that like 50-50 point, I believe. So yeah, we got worse than 50-50 odds in short. All right. Let's do it. 4 dice. Let's not freak out here. I'm assuming if I fail, I mean, what's gonna happen? I don't know what happened. I don't think I failed the terror test yet. I'm assuming I just lose my composure. I scream bloody murder. I don't know. I have to go back to the asylum with Renfield. Oof. I think that's a fail. Yeah, that's a fail. 12. Alright, I failed the test. I just can't handle this anymore, and I lose it. 8-14. I guess I should have drank that brand. No, if I drank the brandy, it would have wouldn't have been enough to make that roll. Oh, good. It seems like failing the terror roll is just going to add to my terror. So I fail more terror rolls in the future. Frozen to the spot in fear, your limbs feel too heavy to move as the unliving horror clambers out of the crate that has kept it confined, a maggot-eaten lump of black flesh hissing from between rotted lips. Add 2 to your terror score and go to 837. Man, I gotta do something about this terror score that Jonathan has. We're now up to 18, and we're gonna go to 837. Here it is, terror score 18. Excuse me. $837. So now we gotta fight this. I'm assuming I'm fighting it. You can do nothing but tighten your grip on the revolver and the knife in your hands, and ready yourself to meet the living corpse's attack. In this battle, the Strigoi, I never heard that term, has an initiative. All right. So let's review the combat rules real quick. It's very similar to Fighting Fantasy, except, well, we should review what that is. Oh, let's go straight into it. You roll 2 dice each. You add your combat. However, the combatant who has the initiative adds 1 to their roll. The text tells you who starts with initiative, as it does here. But if the other combatant wins a combat round, the initiative goes over to him. So essentially, he's fighting with a combat of 8, and I am fighting with a combat of 9. But if I do manage to win that first combat round, it'll be like I'm fighting with 10 and he's fighting with 7. So it's kind of interesting because I feel like the initiative makes a huge difference, and I like how it kind of adds an interesting dynamic to the otherwise basic Fighting Fantasy kind of combat. So essentially, it is I think 2 damage per combat round goes to the loser, except in the case of ties. In the case of ties, you flip a coin, essentially. And in one of those cases, no damage is dealt. And the other is you each deal 1. If I recall correctly. I'm going to look it up if the tie happens, I suppose. But yeah, let's just roll. I like to roll the the 2 dice at once sometimes. I mean the 4 dice. So I can say I'm the white and he is the scary looking black and red. So let us actually take the combat page, what they call the encounter boxes sheet. And we're going to write down, what's it called, a strigoi? Sounds like a fancy word for zombie or something, I guess. So the strigoi has combat of 8 and endurance, of 7. Modified to 8 just for the initiative, but I'm not going to write that. I'm going to write the initiative. And I'm sorry that my overhead camera is a little bit fuzzy, but it doesn't matter much, really. Not much to write here, or to see here. 7 and 7. It should be fine. I mean, it's just the first round is, going to be make me a little bit nervous because I might lose that. But once I swing the initiative to my side, I'll feel a lot more confident, essentially, is what I'm getting at. All right, so let's do it. And all in all, because of the combat, the way I like to do this is rather than adding the combat number directly and doing more complicated math than I need, what I like to say is since he has functionally 8 and I have 9, I say I'm up by 1. So I add 1 to my roll. That's how I do it. And I roll all 4 at once. So this is the dark, evil looking dice are for the strigoi and the white ones are for me. And it looks like I nailed it. First combat round. My 9 to his 6. Because remember, up by 1, I add 1. So I deal 2 damage to the strigoi, taking it to 5 endurance. And now the initiative swings to me. So I add 10. He adds 7, meaning I'm up by 3. So I add 3 to my roll. I feel much more confident now. Especially when I roll a 12 versus his 4, so that becomes like 15 versus 4. If the degree to which you beat the other guy mattered, that would be an amazing roll, but it doesn't really matter. In Tunnels and Trolls, that would matter. We're not playing that. All right, so we've got 3 hit points, 3 endurance. Let's keep it going. All right, nailed him again. We got, adding my 3, I have 12 to 5. And I don't see us losing here, but it could be, with an unlucky roll, he might get some damage in. But let's keep it going. Oh, speaking of an unlucky roll, holy Moses, that is quite an unlucky roll. His 11 beats my 5, essentially, so I take 2 damage. And the initiative goes back to the strigoi. So now Jonathan is at 19 endurance. But, I still have the edge. Now I'm up by 1 again because the initiative teetered back to the strigoi. So I could just end it right here. And it looks like I did not. Oof. So again, I'm up by 1, so I add 1, and his 10 beats my 9, so I take 2 damage. Again. So yeah. Can't get too overconfident. Bad rolls can happen. Once again, we roll, and I'm up by 1, and I won this time. My 5 versus his 3. So I have finally defeated the strigoi. It wasn't a total cakewalk. It looked like it was going to be a cakewalk at first, but he got in some licks before I finished him off. And yeah, now I've kind of the exact phrase they use in the paragraph. If you finish off a horror, go to 897. This might be the time for me to call it a night because I am past my self-imposed end time here. With a final powerful swing of your heavy knife, you decapitate your attacker. Yes. Turn to 914. All right, we still have exciting stuff happening, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going until we have a nice lull in the action, basically. So much for my what I called a hard stop at 11. But I just feel like I just start to read this paragraph and I feel like I can't end it here. The chapel is suddenly awash with noise. The desperate cries of your compatriots the crack of pistol shots and the tearing of wood echoing from its vaulted roof as more Strigoi break free of their confinement and attack your fellow vampire hunters. I'm going to look up this word real quick. Is it just like some kind of Eastern European word for zombie or something? Strigoi are evil spirits from Romanian folklore that are said to have risen from the grave. They are often depicted as vampires that can transform into animals or become invisible. Alright. So basically a Romanian undead thingy. Essentially a zombie, it seems like in this case. Alright, so basically a lot of Strigoi. You throw yourself into the fray in an effort to aid them in their hour of need. Excuse me. You need to work out how many of the unleashed Strigoi you and your companions managed to destroy. Take an agility test, a combat test, an endurance test, an ESP test, and a terror test. Then roll one die or pick a card. You may also choose to spend one use of the pen is might or your special ability. Having done all these things, consult. Okay. Consult the list below to see how many points you have scored. All right. So I'm pretty confident I can pass. Look at these. I always fail the ESP as this guy. The terror is pretty bad at this point. And the number he rolls even. All right. So it's like a whole score sort of a thing. The endurance should be easy to pass too, and probably between agility and combat, should be able to pass at least one, hopefully two of those. So I think we can at least confidently say we'll roll at least a 3, but hopefully more than that. Score at least a 3. All right, let's go. Let's just go down the list, and I guess I can choose to use the pen is mightier after I've done all the other things, just in case it looks really bad, I guess. So a perfect score would be a perfect score without the pen is mightier would be 4, 5, 6, 7. And I don't know, hopefully I get, I'm going to say hopefully I get at least a 5. If I get at least a 5, I'm not going to worry about it. Let's call it that. But who knows? All right, so agility test first. Agility test first. We need a 9 or less because the agility is 9. Don't fail me now, Jonathan. Okay, that's 1. Agility test is passed. Next, his combat is a pretty solid 9 still. And that is a pass. So 2 points so far. All right, so far, so good. Endurance. We roll 4 dice for endurance tests. Where's my other die? I had 4 dice out. I seem to have misplaced one. Yeah, I'll just grab a new one. I'll find it later, hopefully. Where did it go? All right, no matter. Let's keep it going. Endurance test. We have 17 endurance. And we need a 17 or less on 4 dice. Looks good to me. 6, 9, 11, 13. All right, so we're at 4 in the points. So far, we're sweeping it. I don't think we're going to sweep it all the way across, but so far, it's great. And we still have to do ESP, terror, and then the even or odd roll, basically a coin flip. So ESP, not expecting anything here because, again, only Mina seems to pass ESP rolls. So, 7 or less can still happen. I'm just kind of being goofy when I say only Mina. But I'm being superstitious. In a game where clearly nothing superstitious can happen. All right, 7 or less for Jonathan. Do it. Yeah, he did it this time. He passed an ESP roll. All right. And by the way, it seems to be like this is like an abstracted way of seeing how we deal with this army of Strigoi. So far we're sweeping it. We got 5 points. Now the terror test. That's going to be a hard one. We failed it before. Failed it a moment ago, and that actually added 2 to the terror. So we need 18 or higher on 4 dice. Not likely to happen. But let's see what we can do. Ooh, when I saw the 6 and the 4, I was like, oh, it looks pretty promising. But then these were low. So that's a 15. That's a fail. So we didn't sweep it, but we got 5 points still. And now let's see what the coin flip is. An even gives us a point. Even. All right, so we got 6. That's not bad at all. I mean, 6 out of 7 possible without using the pen is mightier. So you go back to this and you can see everything. We got made the agility, 1 point. Made the combat, cumulative, we got 2. Made the endurance, 4. Made the ESP, 5. Failed terror. Passed the even or odd roll, and that's 6. So all I could do now is, add 2 with the penance miner to get 8, but that seems like it's probably overkill. I don't know what the logic's going to be at this point, but I'm assuming 6 out of 7 is like we fight them off with ease. So let's see what the result is. Oh, there's 2 more things here. You have the Strigoi code word ticked off. You have the Pestis code word ticked off. It's a -1. Okay. Let's see what I got. I don't remember either of those. Well, Strigoi, I think we checked that recently. We didn't have it. Where's my damn code word? Here we go. Sorry. Do we have Strigoi checked off? We do not. And do we have Pestis checked off? We do not. All right, so it remains a 6. So it could have been an 8 maximum, but we have 6. All right, so we're going to go to 937 to see the result. And what it says is the number of points you have scored is the total number of Strigoi that have already been dealt with. So we dealt with 6 of them, one way or another, by your brave band. And deduct this total from 20, then divide the remaining number by 4. So we had 14 divided by 4, rounding fractions up. This is the total number of Strigoi you personally have to fight. Okay, so I have to fight 14 divided by 4 is 4 if you round up, right? Because it's really 3 and a fraction. So I have to fight 4 Strigoi personally. Okay. I have the initiative and they're weak though, only combat 6. This should be actually easy. So the way it works when you fight multiple is it's not like they add up their total or anything. It's like you're fighting simultaneous combat. Like if I have a total of 10 and then the 4 of them have a total of 6, 7, 8, and 11 respectively, I deal damage to the 3 who rolled lower than me, and the one who rolled higher than me deals damage to me. So I can try to write this down. I had this kind of thing happen before. The multiple combat situation. But yeah, let's write it down. We got to fight 4 Strigoi. Now the question I'm thinking about, do I want to use 4 boxes here? Did I do that before? Maybe I didn't. I could try to cram them in here maybe. 6. They're all gonna have combat of 6, but they have separate endurances. We're gonna erase each one. So we got 6, 6, 6, and 6. So each time we injure one, we will erase it and update. But I have the initiative, so I have 10 versus their 6. So I'm up by 4. That's not bad at all. I mean, that's fantastic in my view. So I will start by rolling mine. Sweet. And since I'm up by 4, that means it's an automatic win against all of them because they cannot roll. If they roll a 12, right, on the dice, if they roll this, then we add 4 to mine and 13, right? So I win. So I deal 2 damage to all of them. Don't even have to roll. So they're all at 4. Good thing these Strigoi are weak. They just have the numbers on their side, I guess. Being sheer numbers. All right, so I guess what we just learned is 9 or up is an auto win. And 8 would be the worst case is a tie. All right, another 9 or up, so it's an auto win again. All I need is 1 more win, and they're done. They each have 2. All 4 of them have 2 hit points each. Okay, this time I did not get a 9 or higher, so theoretically 1 or more of them could tie me. So let's do the formalities. Here's Strigoi number 1. Strigoi number 1 is dead. Strigoi number 2. Strigoi number 2 is dead. Strigoi number 3. Strigoi number 3 is dead. And lastly, Strigoi number 4 is dead. All right. Easy pickings. They're all done for. Or all 4 are done, I should say. And that's that. You managed to put down all of the undead host. If you manage to put down all the undead host, turn to 967. I'm hoping I can wrap up this sort of situation I'm in. Or at least there'll be a lull in the action. And I can go to bed. I mean, I'm kind of enjoying the heck out of this, but as I mentioned, I'm trying to exercise more self-control and not stay up super late. Because it does impact my day. I feel really tired. My wife's like, why did you stay up so late? All that kind of stuff. So it's all good. And I've been rolling dice so vigorously that my smartwatch says I have reached my walking goal for the day. I'm applying my screwdriver to this thing again, by the way. This stand. All right. Yeah, I think maybe we have a lull in the action. But let's read this paragraph and then make a call. With the destruction of the last of the living corpses, it seems as if some evil presence has quit the place, and you feel your spirits rise. As the shadow of dread slips from you like a robe, deduct 1 from your terror score. Yeah, that's something. Down to 17 terror. I gotta get that down some more somehow. I'm not willing to get drunk over it. Maybe I should, though. Now we understand the Count's plan all the better, Van Helsing muses as he surveys the dismembered corpses that lie among the broken boxes. He seeks to conquer this fair isle, and he brought an army to England to help him accomplish his goal. He wishes to tear down the established order and build an empire of the undead in its place. His old warlord habits have not left him. You exchange horrified looks with your companions as the terrible truth that has been revealed to you starts to sink in. But come, the professor goes on, we must finish our work here to ensure that Dracula can never resurrect his Strigoi to fight for him again. Taking a tinder box and matches from his bag, utilizing the splintered planks of the broken boxes in which Dracula had hidden his vanguard of the undead, he prepares for each of you a blazing torch, and between you set about creating a number of bonfires within the chapel. The boxes and bodies already starting to burn, you leave the chapel, closing the door behind you, and quit the accursed Carfax house. The morning is sickening in the east when you emerge from the shadowed entrance hall. Our night has been eminently successful, Van Helsing declares, smiling broadly. Our first and perhaps our most difficult and dangerous step has been accomplished, without troubling Madame Mina's waking or sleeping thoughts with sights and sounds and smells of horror, which she might never forget. And we know that 21 boxes have been moved from Carfax house. Doesn't sound like a resounding victory to me. I think we were hoping to, like, destroy all of them, but at least we killed his whole army he had. Well, half his army about. Our priority now must be to find those remaining boxes and cleanse them all of that might lie hidden within. Turn to 20. All right, so we're going to write down that Jonathan Harker was at paragraph 20. And let's wrap it up there. Thank you all for watching. That's our save point, paragraph 20. And once again, Jonathan Harker's been through the ringer, but he did fight off those Strigoi pretty handily. As a group, we all did. Terror is at 17 now, which is crazy. I gotta do something about that. Maybe I should just say I chugged the brandy and deal with having 1 lower combat next time. But that's all for tonight, guys. That was part 4 of our series playing through Dracula Curse of the Vampire by Jonathan Green. It's a fantastic game book. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. Yeah, I don't know if I'm necessarily going to play this every week till I'm done. I kind of mentioned, like, before, I kind of want to let Rob Bob choose what we play more often to kind of maybe drum up his interest in joining me more often again. But I will definitely not let this drop. I want to finish playing through this. Even if I wind up dying, that's okay. I want to finish this playthrough because it's so good. And what else is there to say? Thank you to those who watched, and thank you to the people who hit the like button. Looks like we had pretty much just 2 viewers the whole time. It fluctuated here and there. yeah, so thanks guys. Thank you, Eric. Thanks for being a super regular to the channel. And thank you to whoever else is watching this or who is watching it after the fact. Next stream will be I have a retro gaming stream, probably video gaming, sometime on a weekday next week. And I was doing a big series of NetHack, which ended horribly for my character after 13 streams. So I'm moving on from NetHack. And I don't know what I'm playing quite yet, though, so that remains to be seen. Anyway, this is Mark W. signing out. So thanks again, guys. See you next time. Take care.